Hey, season's greetings, everybody. Welcome to another Festive Flicks edition of Wade Watches. I'm Wade, and today I'm going to be reviewing Die Hard from 1988, directed by John McTiernan and starring, this is another lengthy one here, of course, Bruce Willis, Alan Rickman, but also pause because the list just decided to disappear. There we go. But also Reginald Bell Johnson, Bonnie Bedelia, William Atherton, Alexander Godunov, Paul Gleason, Hart Bochner, Devereaux White, Clarence Gilliard, Dennis Hayden, and James Shigeta. So, I hope I got that right. So, jumping into it, let's address the elephant in the room. Get the obvious out of the way. The whole debate on whether this is a Christmas movie or not honestly just seems like one of those things started by the internet just to cause drama and division. Shocking, right? If you want my 2 cents on the matter, any story, any narrative that takes place during Christmas is fair game. That's the camp I'm in. I guess I'll say I'll die on that hill. I have watched this movie in the past, specifically around this time of year, and then frankly, it works better while watching it around this time of year. Um, and furthermore, I'll definitely say, having just rewatched it to review it for the first time, Christmas is a big part of this movie. Christmas songs are heavily featured. This whole thing happens, during a Christmas party that eventually goes very, very wrong in a giant building in an office. The characters constantly bring up Christmas, even sing some of those Christmas songs, and the soundtrack definitely features homage, kind of like takes hints from popular Christmas songs. So that's just my opinion. That's my 2 cents. If you want to list out your reasons as to why this isn't truly a Christmas movie, Die Hard's not really a Christmas movie, more power to you. But it's a Christmas movie in my book. It counts, and I do watch it. Every time this year, around this time of year. So that's my 2 cents on that whole debate that's still going strong all these decades later. Anyway, moving on to the movie. Getting right to it, this is an action movie masterpiece. It's a classic. It still holds up. Every after though, it's definitely not the first movie to feature bad guys who seize control of an area, take people hostage. The hero's got to go ahead and save everybody on its own. It's definitely the one that popularized that whole concept. And after it came out, everybody started doing that whole thing. Whether we're talking about Speed, Olympus Has Fallen, White House Down, Skyscraper. Um, uh, what's another one that pops into my head? There's one more. I can't think of it, but a lot of films started doing this. So, like doing the whole bad guys that taking control of an area, like the hostage, claustrophobic thriller, pretty much is what I'm trying to say. But this is still one of the best examples of that. And the reason why it works, why this I really love this movie, like putting it into words for this review, is the fact that it just feels more. It's a very human action film. It's a very to air is human sort of action movie where our hero John McClane is far from this Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, John Claude Van Damme, Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee type of guy who will just decimate everybody in his path. When the movie opens up, we see that he's not doing so well, and then when he gets to when the events that lead him to this Christmas party on Christmas Eve in this giant building that's still under construction, things get worse for him, and we see throughout the film like the toll that it takes on him. There's definitely not this feeling of I'm just going to kick everybody's ass and save everybody. Like this feeling of like being super self confident and super assured with the situation. This guy is really struggling here. He's hurting, and honestly, he's just as afraid as the people who have actually been taken hostage by the terrorists, and that was great to see. And on the other side of the aisle, with our main protagonist, headed by the late great Alan Rickman, turning out, his most iconic performance, second only to Professor Snape as Hans Gruber. On the other side of the aisle, we see that it's not what it seems with these terrorists, and I know it's not really that big of a twist at this point. A lot of people have seen this movie, but I'm still going to keep it on the wraps because there might be someone might come across this video who's never seen Die Hard before. I'll just say, even with like in relation to what their goal is versus how they come off to everybody, because the whole thing about this is that the terrorists are keeping the majority of the people who are being taken hostage under wraps about what their true goal is. That's why everyone's so terrified, and Hans Gruber is aware of that. Hans Gruber is aware of the fact that they kind of have to put on the front and not disclose what they're really trying to do by taking this building, by seizing control of this large building and taking all these people hostage. And that creates this element of fear. But once, and it's revealed early on what they're really after, you're just kind of like, huh, well, that's actually, I would never do it that way, but I mean, that's actually in a twisted kind of way pretty relatable. And you're actually not just half-assing it, or just doing that, that kind of like dim-witted, I'm gonna shoot everybody if I don't get this criminal act. You've actually thoroughly plan this out step by step for something as trivial as this. So in a way, again, that's kind of human too, because they know they have to put on a certain front to if they hope to get what they want out of this. So in a twisted way, that actually causes you to kind of even root for the terrorist at points. So there's definitely a scene where you feel their triumph and joy. So I feel like it's not trying to take these bad guys. The film definitely never feels like it's trying to take the villains themselves like super seriously. They don't ever feel too terrifying or intimidating. A couple of them do, but pretty early on when it's revealed what they're really after, it's just kind of like, huh. And even, at a point, some of the characters in the movie react to that like kind of like, wow, you did all this for that? So yeah, it really, really works. The action is solid and spot on, still holds up all these decades later. Of course, you don't have the super fancy action fight choreography that you have in a lot of kung fu movies or in a lot of modern action blockbusters, but I was still thoroughly engaged and entertained. I just love the sound design for like the gunfights in this movie. Love the way the guns sound. Love the way John McClane's pistol sounds. And one thing that I could definitely notice that every side character has kind of like a colorful personality. Like even every side character in Die Hard has an arc, even if it's like the smallest, tiniest, like dust particle of an arc. Every side character in Die Hard gets an arc. Especially shout out to Reginald VelJohnson and the arc that he has and the rapport that he has with John McClane throughout this movie. I love his performance in this. That guy was just born to play like just kind of like a kind-hearted cop. I love him in this. And again, all the other side characters, even if they're not really don't get a lot of screen time or as much screen time, we're all thoroughly engaging. We're all like you knew what everybody in this movie wanted, what they were trying to do, what they were going for, what they stood for, what they were there to do, and I love that. I really do appreciate that. And yeah, that's really all I gotta say. It's gory, it's violent, it's gruesome, there's blood, there's guts, there's swearing, there's sexual innuendos, there's John McClane, especially our hero himself, he's kind of a dickhead. He has a potty mouth on him, but I mean, considering the situation he's rightfully so a bit tense. So yeah, I'll allow him that. And again, that really made for an interesting protagonist, someone who didn't feel like they were invincible and invulnerable, and you're not sure watching it if he's gonna really make it through this whole thing, because there are moments where he gets his ass handed to him. And that's another thing before I wrap this up that I'll mention too. It's definitely that classic game of cat and mouse from both sides, where sometimes McClane does something to get the upper hand, but other times, Alan Rickman and the bad guys get the upper hand on him. So it's this really back and forth, like who's going to duke it out, who's going to walk out of here alive, sort of thing. Kind of keeps you guessing. It's kind of very suspenseful. Though at a point you kind of know, but up until that point, it does really keep you guessing, and it does make for a very tense, claustrophobic action thriller. So wrapping it up, it might not necessarily touch on, the joy and true meaning of Christmas. I guess that's the argument that most people who are on team this is not a Christmas movie would have to make, but who fucking cares? It's an action masterpiece. It's claustrophobic, it's tense, it's brutal, it's Die Hard, and wrapping it up, I'm giving it a perfect 10 out of 10. This has been one of my favorite movies, period, ever since I saw it. I don't even know how many Christmases ago. It's been a while because I've watched it every year ever since, and it never fails to disappoint me, never fails to entertain me, never even fails, though I obviously know how the whole thing is going to end having seen it in the past, never even fails to even like keep me on my feet and, keep me guessing, which is what a great movie, which is what a masterpiece of a movie is supposed to do. You can watch it as many times as you want and never be bored by it, and that's definite. Die Hard is definitely one of the movies that does that to me. I love, love, love this movie, and hell yeah, it's a Christmas movie, which is why I'm reviewing it for Festive Flicks, and I give it a perfect 10 out of 10. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. This has been another Festive Flicks edition of Wade Watches, and I'll see you all later on down the road with more holiday cheer. Happy holidays and peace to you.